What would you do if your own sister walked onto your college campus, pointed at you in front of hundreds of students, and declared that you were grounded like a little kid? Everyone laughed. Professors stopped to watch. Phones came out. My reputation shattered in less than a minute. But what nobody knew, including my sister, was that my grandmother had been keeping a secret for years, and before that day was over, one sentence from her would destroy every lie my sister had ever told. Before we begin, I have one question for you. If your own sibling humiliated you in front of your entire college, would you forgive them? Or would you make sure the truth came out no matter what? Let me know your answer in the comments. And if you enjoy emotional family dramas filled with shocking twists, hidden secrets, and satisfying endings, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Now, let's begin. Welcome back to the channel, where we bring you unforgettable stories of betrayal, resilience, and justice. Every story is designed to keep you guessing until the very end. So stay with me because this one takes a turn that no one sees coming. The day my life changed forever started like any other Tuesday. The autumn sun hung low over Westbridge College, painting the red brick buildings in warm shades of gold. Students hurried across campus carrying backpacks, iced coffees, and laptops, completely unaware that within the next few minutes, they would witness something I'd spend months trying to forget. I had just finished my sociology lecture and was walking toward the student center, replaying my professor's assignment in my head, when my phone buzzed. Ava calling. I frowned. My older sister almost never called during the day. I answered. Hey, Ava. Everything okay? I'll be there in 2 minutes, she said in a strangely calm voice before hanging up. I stopped walking. There was no explanation. No greeting. Nothing. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. Before I could call her back, I heard the roar of an engine. A sleek black SUV pulled up near the center of campus where students usually gathered between classes. The driver's door opened. Ava stepped out. She wasn't dressed casually. She wore a tailored navy blazer, expensive heels, oversized sunglasses, and the same expression she always wore whenever she believed she was the smartest person in the room. Confident. Superior. Untouchable. Several students turned to look. A few whispered. I forced a smile and walked toward her. What are you doing here? She ignored my question. Instead, she looked around at the growing crowd as if she had been waiting for exactly this audience. Then she raised her voice. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced. The courtyard grew strangely quiet. Even people who had been halfway through conversations stopped talking. Dozens of heads turned. More students began pulling out their phones. A cold chill crawled down my spine. Ava. I whispered. What are you doing? She finally looked at me. Then, without the slightest hint of embarrassment, she smiled. Not a warm smile. The kind that meant trouble. You've had enough freedom. My heart skipped. What? She folded her arms. As of today. She paused dramatically. You're grounded. Laughter erupted across the courtyard. I felt every pair of eyes land on me. For a second, I honestly thought she was joking. Ava. I laughed nervously. Very funny. I'm serious. Her voice became even louder. You've been irresponsible, disrespectful, and completely out of control. The laughter faded into whispers. People realized this wasn't a prank. It was real. You can't be serious, I said through clenched teeth. This is college. She stepped closer. And you're still my responsibility while Mom and Dad are overseas. No, I'm not. Oh, yes, you are. She reached into her designer handbag and pulled out a neatly folded document. I even have written confirmation. My breathing slowed. What confirmation? She unfolded the paper just enough for everyone nearby to see an elegant signature at the bottom. This was approved by Grandma. Everything inside me froze. That made no sense. My grandmother never picked favorites. She hated public humiliation. She believed family problems stayed inside the family. There is no way Grandma signed that. Ava smirked. I knew you'd say that. She lifted the document even higher. Students leaned forward, convinced they were witnessing some unbelievable family drama. Someone whispered. Her grandma actually approved it? Another student started live streaming. My cheeks burned with humiliation. I reached for the paper. Ava quickly pulled it away. Don't touch it. I stared at her. What is wrong with you? Before she could answer, a calm, unmistakable voice echoed from behind the crowd. I'd like to know that myself. The courtyard fell silent. Students slowly stepped aside. An elderly woman, dressed in an elegant cream-colored suit and carrying a polished wooden cane, walked forward with quiet confidence. My grandmother. But it wasn't her arrival that shocked me. It was the expression on her face. She wasn't angry. She wasn't confused. She looked disappointed. Then she fixed her eyes on the document in Ava's hand and said. The entire courtyard fell into stunned silence. Even the students who had been laughing a second earlier lowered their phones. My sister's confident smile disappeared. For the first time since she had arrived, she looked nervous. She tightened her grip on the paper. Grandma, Ava said with an awkward laugh. I think you're mistaken. My grandmother slowly climbed the last step toward us. I rarely mistake my own signature. A chill ran down my spine. The whispers around us grew louder. Did she just say it's fake? Wait, she forged it? No way. Ava forced another smile. I never said you sign it today. Grandma held out her hand. Then let me read it. For a brief second, Ava didn't move. That hesitation told me everything. Finally, she handed over the paper. Grandma adjusted her glasses and silently read every line. The longer she read, the colder her expression became. Then she looked directly at Ava. This isn't just fake. She lifted the paper so everyone could see it. Someone copied my signature from another document. Gasps spread through the crowd. A student behind me whispered, She's done. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own sister had forged our grandmother's signature, just to embarrass me in public. But instead of apologizing, Ava straightened her shoulders. Fine. So I recreated your signature. It doesn't change the fact that Emily has been lying to this family for months. Every eye turned toward me. I swallowed hard. What lies? Ava didn't answer me. Instead, she reached into her purse again. This time she pulled out a thick envelope. I came prepared. She dumped dozens of printed photographs onto a nearby table. The pictures scattered everywhere. Students immediately crowded around them. Someone picked one up. Another held up 3 more. My stomach dropped. They were pictures of me. Walking into restaurants. Talking to different people. Getting into expensive cars. Leaving hotels. At first glance, they looked terrible. The crowd instantly reached the wrong conclusion. Oh my God. She's living a double life. No wonder her sister came. I grabbed one photograph. Then another. And another. Every single picture had been carefully cropped. The people standing beside me had been cut out. The company logos were missing. The event banners were gone. The context. Completely erased. I looked at Ava. You edited these. I organized them. You manipulated them. I revealed the truth. Students began whispering even louder. A professor walking across campus stopped to see what was happening. Within minutes, campus security appeared at the edge of the crowd. One officer approached carefully. Is everything all right here? Before I could answer, Ava spoke first. This is a private family matter. The officer looked at Grandma. She calmly replied. It became everyone's business the moment my granddaughter turned it into a public spectacle. The officer nodded. Would you like us to clear the area? Grandma looked around. Hundreds of students were watching. Dozens were live streaming. Then she surprised all of us. No. The officer blinked. No. Grandma folded the fake letter neatly. If my family chose to humiliate someone publicly, she looked directly at Ava. Then the truth deserves the same audience. A wave of whispers rolled through the crowd. I had never seen Grandma like this before. She reached into her handbag. Slowly. Deliberately. Then she pulled out a small velvet folder. It looked old. Important. Ava's face suddenly lost all color. No. She whispered under her breath. Grandma heard her. Oh. She said quietly. So you recognize it. I looked between them, completely confused. What is that? Grandma didn't answer me. Instead, she looked at Ava with heartbreaking disappointment. I warned you years ago. If you ever forced my hand. She rested her fingers on the velvet folder. This would become public. Ava took one desperate step forward. Grandma, please. It was the first time I'd ever heard fear in my sister's voice. Real fear. Grandma slowly opened the folder. Inside was a sealed envelope bearing our family name. And across the front, in bold handwriting, were 6 words that made Ava begin to shake. To be opened only if Ava betrays Emily. The words on that envelope seemed to drain every ounce of color from Ava's face. She stared at it as though it were ghosts she had spent years trying to outrun. No, she whispered, shaking her head. You promised. Grandma looked at her with sadness instead of anger. I promised I would never open it, unless you gave me no other choice. The crowd was completely silent now. Not a single laugh. Not a single whisper. Even the students who had been live streaming lowered their phones for a moment, sensing that whatever was about to happen was far bigger than ordinary family drama. I looked between them, completely lost. What envelope? I asked. What is she talking about? Grandma sighed. I hoped you would never have to know. Ava suddenly stepped forward. Don't do this. Her confident voice had completely disappeared. If you open that letter, you'll destroy this family. Grandma's eyes never left hers. No, Ava. You started destroying this family a long time ago. Those words hit me like a truck. What did she mean? My sister had always been the golden child. Straight A student. Student council president. Volunteer of the year. My parents couldn't stop bragging about her. Meanwhile, I was always compared to her. Why can't you be more like Ava? Your sister would never make that mistake. Learn something from your older sister. I'd spent years believing I simply wasn't good enough. But now, for the first time, I wondered if I had been comparing myself to a lie. Grandma carefully broke the seal on the envelope. Ava took another desperate step. Please. I'll apologize. I'll tell everyone this was a misunderstanding. Grandma didn't stop. You should have thought about that before humiliating your sister. She unfolded several handwritten pages. The paper looked old. Very old. I wrote this 5 years ago, Grandma said quietly. After discovering something I prayed would never become true. The crowd leaned in. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear anything else. Grandma began reading. If this letter is being opened, it means Ava has once again chosen jealousy over love. I froze. Jealousy? Of me? That made no sense. Grandma continued. For years, Ava has hidden her resentment toward Emily behind a perfect smile. She believes Emily stole the future she deserved. What? I whispered. Ava covered her face. Stop. Grandma kept reading. Emily knows nothing about the sacrifices made for her, nor does she know how many opportunities disappeared because someone else secretly took them away. My stomach twisted. What opportunities? Grandma lowered the letter and looked at me. Do you remember the national journalism competition during your senior year of high school? I nodded immediately. Of course. It was the biggest opportunity I'd ever had. I applied. But they rejected me. Grandma slowly shook her head. No, sweetheart. You were never rejected. I felt my knees weaken. What? They accepted you. The world around me seemed to stop. No. That's impossible. I received the rejection email. Grandma looked at Ava. Did she? Ava closed her eyes. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She still said nothing. Grandma reached into the velvet folder again. This time, she removed another document. An official letter with the competition's logo. She handed it to me. My hands shook as I read the first line. Congratulations, Emily Carter. I couldn't breathe. It was an acceptance letter. Dated 5 years earlier. Signed. Official. Real. My voice broke. I never saw this. You couldn't. Grandma answered softly. It was intercepted before it ever reached you. I slowly turned toward my sister. My entire body trembled. You knew? She looked at the ground. You knew? She finally nodded. One tiny movement. But it shattered my entire childhood. You stole it. She burst into tears. I just wanted one chance. You always had everyone's attention. I was tired of living in your shadow. I stared at her in disbelief. My shadow? I laughed bitterly. I spent my entire life living in yours. The crowd gasped. Everything I had believed about my family was beginning to fall apart. But Grandma wasn't finished. She quietly folded the acceptance letter and looked directly at Ava. I only told them about one thing. There are still 3 more. My heart nearly stopped. 3 more? What else had my sister taken from me? A heavy silence settled over the courtyard. No one laughed anymore. No one whispered. Hundreds of students stood frozen, staring at my sister as tears streamed down her face. I couldn't move. I couldn't even think. The acceptance letter was still trembling in my hands. 5 years. For 5 years, I had believed I wasn't talented enough. That I had failed. That everyone else was simply better than me. And all that time, my own sister had stolen my future. I slowly looked up at Grandma. You said? My voice cracked. There were 3 more. She nodded. There are. Ava suddenly dropped to her knees. Please, Grandma. Don't. I'll tell Mom and Dad everything. I'll apologize to Emily. I'll fix it. Grandma's expression remained calm. Some things cannot be fixed with an apology. The crowd watched in complete silence. Even campus security had stopped trying to clear the area. One of the professors quietly folded his arms, refusing to interrupt. Everyone wanted to know the truth. Grandma opened the folder again. The second truth happened 3 years ago. My heartbeat quickened. She removed another envelope. This one contained several bank statements. I frowned. What are those? Grandma handed them to me. Read the account holder's name. I looked down. My hands immediately started shaking. Emily Carter Education Trust. I blinked. What is this? Grandma answered gently. When your grandfather passed away, he created an education trust in your name. I looked at her in disbelief. My name? Yes. He wanted to make sure you would never have to worry about paying for college, graduate school, or starting your career. My mouth fell open. I never knew. I know. Grandma looked at Ava. Because someone made sure you never found out. I felt my stomach twist. Slowly, I opened the statements. The balance should have been enough to pay for years of tuition. Instead, almost every dollar was gone. Withdrawn. Transferred. Spent. What? I whispered. What happened? Grandma didn't answer. She didn't have to. I already knew. I turned toward Ava. No. She couldn't even look at me. I was going to pay it back. My heart shattered. You stole Grandpa's money? She burst into tears again. It wasn't like that. I only borrowed it. You borrowed nearly everything. I yelled for the first time. Students flinched. So every semester. When Mom and Dad told me there wasn't enough money. When I worked 2 part-time jobs. When I skipped meals because I couldn't afford groceries. My voice completely broke. The money was there? Grandma slowly nodded. It was always there. Tears blurred my vision. Every exhausting overnight shift. Every missed opportunity. Every moment I blamed myself. None of it had been necessary. Ava had taken the future Grandpa left for me. I didn't mean for it to get this far, she cried. I invested it. I thought I'd double it before anyone noticed. But the business failed. I panicked. I couldn't tell anyone. The entire courtyard erupted with shocked whispers. Someone muttered. She stole her own sister's trust fund. Another student whispered. That's unbelievable. But then, something caught my attention. Grandma wasn't surprised. She wasn't angry. She looked prepared, as though she had expected every single confession. I wiped my tears. You already knew. She nodded once. I've known for almost 2 years. I stared at her in disbelief. If you knew, why didn't you stop her? Grandma looked at me with heartbreaking regret. Because I was waiting. Waiting for what? She took a slow breath. I was waiting to see whether Ava would choose honesty on her own, or whether greed would consume her completely. Ava covered her face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. For a moment, I almost believed her. Then Grandma quietly reached into the velvet folder one last time. There is one final document. Ava looked up in absolute terror. No. Grandma placed a thick, sealed file on the table. This one doesn't contain my words. It contains evidence. I frowned. Evidence of what? Grandma's answer made my blood run cold. Evidence that this didn't start 5 years ago. It started the day your parents brought you home from the hospital. The entire courtyard went silent again. It felt like the world had stopped breathing. I stared at Grandma, convinced I had misunderstood her. What do you mean? I whispered. The day I was born. Grandma rested one hand on the thick file. Yes. Ava suddenly rushed forward. Don't open it. Campus security immediately stepped between them. Ma'am, you need to stay back. I have to explain. Ava cried, reaching toward Grandma. It isn't what she thinks. Grandma looked at her with heartbreaking disappointment. For 22 years, I've waited for you to tell your sister the truth. You never did. My chest tightened. What truth? Grandma slowly opened the file. Inside were dozens of papers. Medical records. Old photographs. School reports. Handwritten letters. Even a few newspaper clippings. Everything had been carefully organized. She picked up the oldest photograph. It showed Ava at about 6 years old, standing beside a baby stroller. Inside the stroller was me. Grandma handed me the picture. You were only 3 months old. I smiled sadly. I've never seen this before. You weren't supposed to. Grandma replied quietly. Your mother hid every reminder of what happened that day. A cold feeling spread through my body. What happened? Grandma took a deep breath. The day your parents brought you home. Everyone came to celebrate. Your grandfather bought gifts for both of you. He made a promise that no child in this family would ever feel less loved than the other. I nodded slowly. That sounds like Grandpa. Grandma smiled faintly. It does. Then her smile disappeared. But someone else didn't feel the same way. She looked directly at Ava. You. Ava closed her eyes. Tears rolled down her cheeks. You were 6 years old. You heard relatives saying the new baby was beautiful. You saw everyone holding Emily. You thought. Grandma's voice softened. That your family loved her more. I looked at Ava. She wasn't denying it. Grandma continued. At first, it was childish jealousy. You would hide Emily's toys. Blame her for broken things. Refuse to let anyone play with her. Your parents thought you were simply adjusting to having a younger sister. She paused. But instead of fading with age, your jealousy grew stronger. Every word felt heavier than the last. By middle school, Grandma continued. You had started taking credit for Emily's artwork. By high school, you intercepted her mail. And by college, you stole the education trust your grandfather left specifically for her. I couldn't stop crying. Not because of the money. Not because of a scholarship. But because my entire childhood suddenly made sense. Every birthday that somehow became about Ava. Every award of mine that disappeared. Every time my parents accused me of being careless. Every dream that quietly slipped away. It hadn't been bad luck. Someone had been pulling the strings all along. I looked at my sister. Why? She finally looked at me. For the first time. There was no anger. No arrogance. Only shame. I hated myself. Her voice trembled. Every time you smiled, I felt invisible. So I convinced myself. If I took enough away from you, I'd finally feel important. Tears streamed down her face. But I never did. I just kept taking. The courtyard remained silent. Even the students who had started recording at the beginning were now simply watching. Then, Grandma reached into the file one final time. This, she said softly, is the document I've protected for 22 years. She placed a sealed envelope in my hands. Across the front, in Grandpa's familiar handwriting, were the words, to my youngest granddaughter, open only when you learn the whole truth. My hands trembled so badly I could barely hold it. I looked at Grandma. What is this? She smiled through tears. It's your grandfather's final gift. I carefully broke the seal. The first page slipped into my hands. I read only the opening sentence. And the color drained from my face. Because Grandpa had written something I never imagined possible. Emily, if you're reading this, then it means the greatest secret in our family can no longer be hidden. My hands were shaking so badly that I almost dropped the letter. The courtyard was completely silent. Hundreds of students, professors, campus security, even my sister. Everyone waited as I unfolded the yellowed pages written in my grandfather's familiar handwriting. I swallowed hard and began reading. My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, then the greatest secret in our family has finally come to light. Before I tell you anything else, I need you to know one thing. None of what happened was ever your fault. Tears blurred my vision. I continued. From the day you were born, I watched your sister struggle with feelings she didn't understand. She wasn't born cruel. She became consumed by jealousy that no one recognized soon enough. I looked at Ava. She was crying so hard she couldn't even lift her head. The letter continued. I asked your parents many times to get Ava professional help. They refused. They believed she would grow out of it. Grandma quietly closed her eyes. I begged them, she whispered. They wouldn't listen. My heart ached. Not just for myself, but for the little girl Ava used to be. The one who had needed help, and never received it. I kept reading. If the day ever comes when you learn the truth, I have only one request. Do not let revenge define the rest of your life. Justice and revenge are not the same thing. I folded the letter against my chest. For the first time that day, I wasn't angry. I was exhausted. I looked at Ava. Why didn't you tell me? She slowly raised her head. Because every year it became harder. One lie became 10. 10 became 100. I kept thinking I'd fix everything before you found out. She laughed bitterly through her tears. But I only made it worse. I nodded slowly. You did. A long silence followed. Then Grandma stepped forward. There is one last matter. She turned toward everyone gathered around us. I want every person standing here to understand something. She looked directly at the students still holding their phones. Public humiliation destroys people. My older granddaughter chose to embarrass her sister in front of strangers. So today, the truth embarrassed the lie. No one said a word. The dean of Westbridge College, who had quietly arrived during the commotion, finally stepped forward. I've heard enough. He looked at Ava. Our campus has reviewed the live stream recordings. You knowingly created a public disturbance, presented forged documents, and intentionally damaged another student's reputation. He paused. You are no longer welcome at college-sponsored events. Ava simply nodded. She didn't argue. She knew she had lost. Then my parents came running across the courtyard. They had finally arrived after receiving dozens of frantic phone calls. My mother looked from Ava to me, to Grandma. What happened? Grandma handed her the folder. Everything you refused to see. My parents spent several minutes reading through every document, every bank statement, every letter, every piece of evidence. By the end, my father couldn't stop crying. He walked toward me slowly. I'm so sorry. I failed you. For years, those were the words I had dreamed of hearing. But strangely, they didn't erase the pain. They simply acknowledged it. My mother turned toward Ava. She wrapped her arms around her, not to protect her, but because she finally understood how deeply their neglect had hurt both of us. We should have helped you, she whispered. We failed you too. Ava collapsed into tears. I'm sorry. She looked at me. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know. I never hated you. I hated the person I became. I took a long breath. Then I remembered Grandpa's final request. Justice, not revenge. I forgive you, I said quietly. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. She nodded. I know. Over the following months, Ava voluntarily repaid every dollar she could, sold the business she'd secretly started with my trust money, entered intensive therapy, and accepted responsibility for everything she had done. My education trust was restored through Grandpa's estate and Grandma's legal arrangements. For the first time in years, I wasn't fighting just to survive. I was finally free to build the future that had always been mine. A year later, I stood on the same campus stage where I had once been humiliated. This time, I wasn't surrounded by whispers. I was surrounded by applause as I accepted the university's highest student leadership award. In the front row sat my parents. Beside them sat Grandma. And next to Grandma sat Ava. She was clapping the loudest. Not because she wanted attention, but because, for the first time in our lives, she was genuinely happy to see me succeed. As I looked up at the sky, I smiled. Not because the past had disappeared, but because it no longer controlled my future. Grandpa had been right. The truth doesn't always destroy a family. Sometimes, it gives them their first real chance to heal.